Another day of the Celestial Toymaker, and another piece of synchronicity. Welcome to the Time Treadmill. I'm Ron, and these are my sweaty thoughts about Doctor Who. I told you yesterday when I was watching the new episode of Doctor Who that it was an amazing piece of synchronicity, being as the main villain in the new story was from the same race as the Celestial Toymaker. Well, then later in the day, I ran into another really weird bit of synchronicity. See, yesterday's episode was titled, Can You Hear Me? So yesterday afternoon, while I was working on editing the video files and doing the title screens for the episode. So yesterday afternoon, while I was working on editing the main titles for editing the main titles for Sweaty Thoughts, I was also in a video conference for a meeting at work. And literally, as I was typing the words, "Can you hear me?" someone in the meeting straight up said, "Can you hear me?" Exactly at the moment I was typing it. Chills went down my back. It was just weird. But anyway, on to today's viewing. I have three interesting things to talk about. First of all, in the story itself. At the tail end of the third episode, the Celestial Toymaker summons forth another toy. This one, a rotund English schoolboy named Cyril. And in fact, he introduces himself by saying, "Hello, my name is Cyril, but my friends call me Billy." That was an improvisation, because the character of Cyril was actually based on a very popular British children's character named Billy Bunton, a mischievous schoolboy. And the problem with that is that the BBC did not have copyright to use Billy Bunting. And in fact, they had a couple of other things in the story that definitely treaded on copyright issues. I definitely saw a stuffed Mickey Mouse doll lurking in the back of one of the scenes. And notably, the only reason I saw that was because I was watching a loose cannon reconstruction using photos taken in studio during the filming of the production. So again, this was not an official BBC release. I saw that it was a fan creation using resources available. I guarantee that if and when the Celestial Toymaker is restored via animation, that will not be there in the background. But getting back to Cyril. After the episode aired, it stirred up quite a storm at the BBC, to the point where at the beginning of episode 4, they had to take the unique step of putting up an on-screen disclaimer saying that Cyril was only meant to be a Billy Bunting type character and not Billy Bunting himself. So anyway, story-wise, blah blah blah, the Doctor does something clever, our heroes win, move on to the next episode. Woohoo! The other two interesting things I wanted to talk about, though, with Celestial Toymaker have to do with the writers. First thing being, the new story editor is Gerry Davis. If that name doesn't sound familiar to you, he is the man who created the Cybermen, second only to the Daleks in Doctor Who's Rogue Gallery. Gerry Davis' brilliant creation will show up for the first time in just a few more stories, and Davis will go on to write several more Cybermen stories and cement them into the legacy of Doctor Who. As for the other interesting writing thing, that's the writer of this story itself, Brian Hayles. He would go on to write 5 more stories for Doctor Who, and out of the 6 total stories he wrote, 4 of them would feature his signature creation, the Ice Warriors. Now, the Ice Warriors aren't going to show up for a while yet. They come in with the second Doctor, but they're some of my favorites, and holy cow was I happy when they finally made their appearance in modern Doctor Who. They are a great, great enemy, and having Brian Hayles on board as a writer is just a fantastic turn of events. It's largely due to his writing that I enjoy this story as much as I do, because reading a plot description, it really doesn't sound like the kind of story I would enjoy. It's just too childish and pantomime. But Hayles imbues some really interesting character choices, even with the doll figures, and he makes the Toymaker himself a fantastic character, and one who is set up to be a recurring villain and yet never has come back on the TV show, although he's appeared several times in print. This is another classic character, like the Monk, that is ripe for the picking for a modern reuse, although given this week's episode of Doctor Who, probably not time to bring him back just now. So that wraps it up today. Now tomorrow is a very special day on the Time Treadmill. Tomorrow is my 3-year check-in on this ridiculous project. I'm going to talk a little bit about where I came from, where I'm at, and where I'm headed. What I'm not going to talk about a whole lot is, oh my God, the gunfighters. I promise I'll get to that on Thursday. So be sure to check in tomorrow. I will see you then.